In the ever-evolving landscape of Port Charles, few families manage to avoid the harsh spotlight of drama, betrayal, and emotional collapse. And for Alexis, a woman who has fought long and hard to keep her fractured family from falling apart, the recent series of events has pushed her dangerously close to a breaking point. What began as an act of desperation to help her daughter turned into a whirlwind of chaos and shattered trust, with consequences that neither she nor anyone around her could have anticipated. This is a story not of redemption, but of the kind of heartache that comes when a mother's sacrifice is not only unrecognized, but weaponized against her. It all began when Alexis, cornered by an impossible choice, handed over a large sum of money to Ava. The circumstances were murky. What drove Alexis to give in, whether it was blackmail, a secret debt, or a misguided sense of responsibility, remained unclear. What was known, however, was that the transfer was swift, silent, and final. Ava, ever the opportunist, didn't waste a moment. With the money in her possession, she vanished into the wind, leaving behind nothing but vague social media updates of tropical beaches and luxury spas, as if mocking the seriousness of the sacrifice that had just been made on her behalf. While Ava soaked up the sun somewhere far from Port Charles, back home, Alexis faced a different storm entirely. Rick, never one to miss an opportunity to reclaim the moral high ground, announced his intention to drag Christina into court. The nature of the legal dispute was intentionally kept vague by Rick, but the timing made it clear, this wasn't about justice. It was about leverage, about control, and most of all, about punishing Alexis. News of the legal move infuriated Alexis. Already emotionally raw from the financial loss and betrayal by Ava, the idea that Rick would now use Christina to publicly humiliate her was intolerable. Alexis had spent years cleaning up after others, burying her own needs in favor of being the glue that held everything together. But this time, she was being portrayed not as a mother who had done everything to keep her family afloat, but as an enemy. And worst of all, that accusation came from Christina herself. Christina, always the fiery and independent spirit, had never been one to see things from her mother's perspective. She saw rules as chains, and discipline as punishment. Over the years, their relationship had frayed, but Alexis had always hoped that one day her daughter would understand. That day had not come. Instead, Christina accused Alexis of being cold, emotionally unavailable, and too obsessed with control to truly understand what love meant. These words hit Alexis harder than any courtroom judgment ever could. In Christina's eyes, Alexis had become the villain of the story. The money that had vanished into Ava's hands was, in Christina's mind, just another example of her mother's poor decision-making, never mind that Alexis had likely given it away in an attempt to protect someone, or salvage something bigger than herself. Christina saw only the consequence: financial strain, emotional tension, and a mother who she believed was incapable of doing the right thing. Alexis, in turn, found herself spiraling. Her bank account wasn't the only thing that had been emptied, her emotional reserves were all but gone. For years, she had walked the line between lawyer and mother, protector and disciplinarian, hero and scapegoat. But now, she had no one on her side. Not Rick. Not Ava. Not even her daughter. And for the first time in a long while, Alexis began to question everything. Had all her sacrifices been for nothing? Had every long night, every carefully chosen legal move, every emotionally restrained conversation been misunderstood so completely? The pain Alexis felt wasn't just from being blamed, it was from the realization that she had given everything, and it still hadn't been enough. But Port Charles has a way of forcing people to face the truth, whether they're ready or not. And Alexis wasn't going to be able to hide from hers for much longer. Word of Ava's escape and the missing funds began to circulate. Questions emerge. Why had Alexis given Ava such a large amount of money? What was she hiding? And why was she still trying to protect people who had never truly been loyal to her? For Ava, the world was a playground. For Rick, the courtroom was a battlefield. For Christina, life was a proving ground where she constantly measured her mother and found her lacking. But for Alexis, it was becoming increasingly clear that she had no safe haven left. She was fighting wars on all sides, and none of the people she had once called family were offering even a shield to help her withstand the attack. Even so, Alexis wasn't one to go down without a fight. As she sat in her office late one night, reviewing the court documents Rick had filed, something hardened in her. Maybe it was the realization that her own children might never understand her until they had walked in her shoes. Maybe it was the quiet resolve of a woman who had been through worse and survived. Or maybe, it was the final breaking point, when the mask of calm cracked, and underneath it, Alexis found the steel spine of a woman who had carried too much, too long, and decided it was time to stop apologizing for it. She didn't know yet what her next move would be. But one thing was certain, Alexis wasn't going to let Rick define her legacy. And she wasn't going to let Christina walk away thinking her mother was incapable of love. Not anymore. This wasn't the end of Alexis's story. It was merely the darkest chapter before the next battle began. And if anyone in Port Charles had the strength to fight through betrayal, heartbreak, and the suffocating loneliness of misunderstood motherhood, it was her. Would you like a follow-up focusing on how Alexis regains control of her life and turns the tables?